I'm not gonna lie to you. I had to take several breaks while writing the script because what Adam Pearce announced on Raw last night has left me emotionally devastated. Paul Heyman, the wise man, the special counsel, the voice of professional wrestling for over 3 decades, was brutally attacked backstage, and the injuries are so severe that his entire career might be over. And here's what's going to absolutely destroy you when you hear it. Adam Pearce had to stand in front of the WWE Universe with tears streaming down his face and deliver news that nobody wanted to hear. News that changes everything we thought we knew about WWE's immediate future. And news that might mean we've seen the last of one of the greatest minds in wrestling history. If you're not already emotional, stay with me through this entire breakdown because the attack itself was horrifying. The details that have emerged are disturbing, and Adam Pearce's announcement was one of the most genuine, heartbreaking moments in Raw history. This isn't a storyline, this isn't an angle, this is real life intersecting with professional wrestling in the worst possible way. Let me take you through everything that happened, from the attack itself to Pearce's devastating announcement, because every detail matters, and the full picture of this tragedy needs to be understood. The show started normally enough, with various matches and segments progressing as planned. Paul Heyman wasn't scheduled to appear on camera, but he was backstage fulfilling his duties as a special advisor and working with various talent on their promos and storylines. According to multiple eyewitness accounts, Paul Heyman was in a production area reviewing video footage for an upcoming segment when he was approached by a group of individuals. Initial reports suggest it was members of a rival faction, though WWE has been deliberately vague about identifying the attackers, likely for legal reasons. What we know for certain is that what started as a verbal confrontation quickly escalated into physical violence. Here's my first question for you, and I need this comment section filled with answers. Have you ever witnessed or been part of a wrestling show where real violence occurred backstage that wasn't part of the planned storyline? Because what happened to Paul Heyman crosses that line between performance and reality in a way that's genuinely concerning. The attack was brutal and sustained. Multiple sources describe it as lasting several minutes before security and other wrestlers were able to intervene and pull the attackers away from Heyman. By the time help arrived, Paul was unconscious on the floor, bleeding from head wounds and clearly in severe distress. Paramedics were called immediately, and Heyman was transported to a local medical facility for emergency treatment. Word of the attack spread through the arena within minutes. Wrestlers who were friends with Heyman were visibly shaken. Production staff were in tears. The entire backstage atmosphere shifted from professional focus to genuine fear and concern for someone who's been a fixture in wrestling for so long. You could feel the change in energy even watching the broadcast, as performers seemed distracted and emotional during their segments. About 45 minutes into the show, all the matches and segments stopped. The arena lights came up fully, and Adam Pearce walked out alone onto the stage. He wasn't in character, he wasn't playing the authority figure role, he was just Adam, clearly devastated and struggling to maintain his composure. The arena immediately sensed something was genuinely wrong, because this wasn't normal television. Pearce stood there for a moment, microphone in hand, trying to collect himself. You could see him taking deep breaths, his hands shaking slightly, his eyes red from crying. The arena was completely silent, thousands of people holding their breath waiting to hear what he had to say. And then, in a voice that kept cracking with emotion, he began to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen, I need to address a situation that occurred backstage tonight. Paul Heyman, a man who many of us consider not just a colleague, but a mentor, a friend, and a legend in this industry, was attacked. The attack was severe, and Paul has been transported to a medical facility where he's currently receiving treatment for multiple injuries. The crowd gasped. You could hear people starting to cry in the audience. Wrestlers started coming out from the back and lining up on the stage behind Pearce in a show of solidarity and concern. The visual of the entire Raw roster standing together, all looking genuinely worried, hammered home how serious this situation was. Comment below and tell me, when you heard Adam Pearce start explaining what happened, did you think it was a work, or did you immediately recognize this was something real, because the line between storyline and reality was completely blurred? Pearce continued, his voice getting quieter and more strained with each word. Paul suffered a severe concussion, multiple contusions, and there's concern about potential internal injuries that are still being evaluated. More than that, there's concern about long-term neurological effects from the head trauma he sustained. The doctors are doing everything they can, but the reality is we don't know the full extent of his injuries yet, and we don't know if he'll ever be able to return to WWE in any capacity. That last part, the acknowledgement that Paul Heyman might never return, hit like a punch to the gut. The crowd reaction was audible, a collective sound of shock and grief. Wrestlers on the stage were openly crying, holding each other for support. Michael Cole at the commentary table had removed his headset and was wiping tears from his eyes. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was a community dealing with genuine trauma. The most heartbreaking moment came when Pearce's voice completely broke, and he had to pause for almost 30 seconds to compose himself. He covered his face with his hand, his shoulders shaking, and several wrestlers came forward to put their hands on his back in support. When he finally continued, his words were barely audible. Paul Heyman is one of the greatest minds this business has ever seen. He's helped countless wrestlers become stars. He's created moments that will live forever in wrestling history. And beyond all that, he's a good man who didn't deserve what happened to him tonight. So on behalf of WWE, on behalf of everyone in this arena, and on behalf of the millions watching around the world, our thoughts and prayers are with Paul and his family right now. Let me ask you this, and I want genuine emotional responses in the comments. What does Paul Heyman mean to you as a wrestling fan? What's your favorite Heyman moment or promo? Because understanding his impact makes this situation even more devastating. After Pearce's announcement, WWE made the decision to cancel the rest of the scheduled show. They aired a tribute package featuring Paul Heyman's greatest moments, from his ECW days to his work with Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, and Roman Reigns. Watching those clips, seeing Heyman's brilliance on full display, knowing that we might never see him in a WWE ring again, was emotionally overwhelming. The wrestling world immediately rallied around Paul Heyman. Current WWE stars posted messages of support on social media. Legends from throughout wrestling history shared their favorite Heyman memories and sent prayers for his recovery. Even people from rival wrestling companies put aside any business competition to express concern for someone who's meant so much to the industry. Triple H released a statement an hour after Raw went off the air. He wrote, "Paul Heyman is family. What happened tonight is unacceptable, and those responsible will face consequences to the fullest extent possible. Beyond that, our focus right now is on Paul's health and supporting his family during this difficult time. The WWE Universe has lost one of its most important voices, and we can only hope that's temporary and not permanent." Here's a trivia question for the longtime fans. How many years has Paul Heyman been involved in professional wrestling as a manager, promoter, and creative force? Drop your answer in the comments, because his legacy spans decades and touches nearly every major wrestling promotion. The details about the attack that have emerged since last night are disturbing. Apparently, the assault was not just physical violence, but was calculated and targeted, with the attackers specifically focusing on Heyman's head and face, areas that would cause maximum damage to someone who makes their living through on-camera appearances and verbal performances. The maliciousness of it suggests this wasn't just a heat-of-the-moment confrontation, but something premeditated and vicious. WWE's legal team is reportedly working with local law enforcement to pursue criminal charges against those responsible. There's discussion of assault and battery charges, potentially even more serious charges depending on the final assessment of Heyman's injuries. This has moved beyond the realm of wrestling storylines into actual criminal justice proceedings. The identity of the attackers is still being kept under wraps, but speculation is running rampant online. Various names are being thrown around, with fans trying to piece together which heel faction or individuals would have motive to target Paul Heyman. WWE has been deliberately silent on this aspect, likely on advice of legal counsel, but the mystery is driving intense online discussion. What's your theory about who attacked Paul Heyman and why? Drop your speculation in the comments, but please keep it respectful given that this is a real situation with